Today I'm going to give you my projection for a 5-year silver price. I'm going to show you the data that I used to come at this conclusion or to arrive at this conclusion. What I did was I took the M2 money supply and I divided it by the price of silver, 1 ounce of silver, to gather a silver ratio between the two and to see if there was any correlation. Let me show you why I use the M2 money supply. M2 money supply basically is the M1 plus the M2. M1 is the near money, cash, checking deposits, etc. M2 is basically a representation of all money that can be liquid or all assets that can be liquidated into cash within 24 hours. You can see here, this is the M2 money supply. As of the end of 2018, is 14.5 trillion in money supply. You can see it increasing over time. In addition to that, you can see the spikes during the Great Recession, we can call it, in here and there. This ratio or this supply grows at about 1 trillion a year. Of course, that's contingent on factors such as the interest rates, Fed decisions, and those things. But here's the M2 money supply. So what I did was I gathered the M2 money supply. I removed 9 zeros just to get a smoother ratio for an end result. We didn't want anything like thousands or 10,000. We wanted something smooth. And what you need to know about this ratio or this chart or table, let's call it, prior to 1960, there was no real correlation, and I say real, quote unquote, between the dollar and between silver. There's one with platinum. Of course, gold was fixed, and that's primarily because gold was fixed to the dollar. So any extreme changes had to be done via monetary resets. But you can see 1960, this is when silver began to float more freely because, of course, the gold window closed in 1971, so gold floated freely and silver was able to float freely as well. 1960 is what the first point we'll look at. M2 simplified 300 divided by 1 ounce of silver, 1 ounce of silver, which was 90 cents. You got a ratio of 333. The higher this silver ratio is, means that the more undervalued silver is. The higher this ratio, the more undervalued silver is. The lower this ratio, the higher value silver is in comparison to the M2 money supply. So basically, if this number is high, people are overly pessimistic on silver. This number is low, people are overly optimistic. So 1960, silver was screaming a buy. This is the highest ratio at the time, 9 cents. By 1968, the ratio decreased some. Silver is $2.50 here. 1980, this ratio decreased to an extreme. We're going to call this 30, extreme optimistic or extreme optimism. And silver, you got a $50 silver price once you divide it by the 1 trillion that was in the economy. That was, money was just thrown into the economy from that period. And it really devalued the dollar, which caused the price of commodities to increase. Silver in particular, pretty much all the commodities increased at that time. However, there was some manipulation in the 1980s with the Hunt brothers, but that's for another topic. But still, regardless, silver would have still increased to a high monetary amount regardless. Another thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the Shiller PE ratio as I do in most of my videos. The higher this ratio is, it means you want to sell stocks and look for other alternatives. The lower this ratio is means you want to be buying stocks. So 1980, you could have actually sold silver at that high. You could have sold silver, gold, most of all commodities at that high. And you could have bought stock and you would have got great returns. 1999, you wanted to be out of the stock market, getting out maybe in 1997, 98, 99. You can't really time the perfect top, and you wanted to look for other commodities. In here, 2018, hopefully you got out there. I sold sold a good amount of stocks at this level, but I'm still holding some, mainly for the dividends but I'm going to unload even more to be even more in commodities. So we'll go to the other chart. So you can see 1999. Look at this ratio. Now, if it would have hit 300 in, let's say, 1994 or so, and it may have, I didn't gather that data, there were no other alternatives really to buy, so you could have actually stayed in stocks without switching to commodities, because if nothing, or you could have moved to cash, but if nothing is really undervalued, you don't want to force your hand to make an investment. But 1999, you got the $800 ratio, or 800 price ratio, and that was screaming to buy. That was a $5 silver price. 2008, with the extra liquidity that was injected into the markets or to the economy, you got a lower ratio, which got a higher silver price, about triple. In 2011, you got this 180, which was, of course, the lower this goes, the better off it is for you. So you got about 10 times your money. If you would have held from 1999 to 2011, you would have got 10 times your money. This is another key. When this gets to maybe 180, 200, you want to start unloading some silver. A lot of people, let me go back to this other chart. A lot of people like, what's the guy, Peter Schiff and Jim Sinclair, even Jim Rogers, I think, they thought when this ratio hit, this is a S&P or a PE ratio, sorry about that. When they thought this ratio, it got to about 15. They thought this ratio was going to go to about 5. You don't want to sell or buy anything 100% at the time. So you don't want to unload all of your silver ever and buy stocks. You don't want to unload all of your gold ever and buy stocks. You want to slowly move into the market. So at this point, you may want to be 40 to 50 to 30% into the market, maybe even 60%, based on other conditions that exist. That way, if there is a move like there was here in 2011, they thought that, where are we? They thought that this was just going to keep on increasing. It got to 50 here, you can't see it, but they thought that this was just going to keep on increasing, and then but instead it pulled back. Now this pullback actually caused a lot of people to lose money because they purchased silver at this level. So when there was extreme optimism in silver, as you can see with the 180, people were buying. You never want to buy when there's extreme optimism. You want to buy when there's extreme pessimism. And speaking of that, let's talk about 2018, 2019. You can see right now, as you saw in the M2 website that I showed you, the money supply is about 14.5 trillion. With the $16, $14 silver price, you get about 1,000. It's the cheapest silver has ever been in comparison to the M2 money supply. Do I have the gold? So yeah, I don't have the gold silver ratio up here, but if you check that out as well, gold silver ratio, gold or silver is about, I think, 82. You get 82. You have to give 82 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold, so that's pretty high as well. But we're focused on the M2 money supply, because there's a correlation there, but that's for another video. So let's say hypothetically, if this goes out to, we add about 1 billion a year, as I mentioned, that the money supply increases, and we'll see what happens when we do a 180, which is a very attainable ratio, and then we'll do 40 as an extreme ratio. We don't even want to get to the 30 ratio, because that's, in my view, just being too optimistic. But if we have the same exact money supply and we just get to the 180, we're looking at an $81 silver price, is about 5 times our money. If we get to the extreme, we're looking at a $363 silver price, which is 22 times the silver price that it is now. I think a more realistic price or more realistic time frame is going to be about 2020, 2022, because silver moves over multiple years. It as far as when it completes a full move. So I think is set to complete a full move. So you look at it, 2022, if we have 18 trillion in the economy, or 16 trillion with the very attainable ratio, we're looking at $90 silver price, $100 silver price. With the extreme, we're looking at 400, 500. And I took it out to 2025 with the very attainable 20 trillion. In the extreme, we're looking at 500, which is about 7 times or 32 times your money. Now, you may ask, why does why are these ratios so wide? Why do they swing so widely? And basically, the market or people, the herd of people, they get fixated on one thing. As you can see with the crypto boom that happened in what year was that? 2018, last year, 2017, 2018. Investors, they use social media, or quote unquote investors, and they get fixated on one thing and they drive the price up. It's like a gym membership. Whatever gym you go to, wait till New Year's or the New Year's resolution crowd. Every year, without fail, you're going to see an inflow of people during the New Year's resolution time. And this is no different than the market is. People, just by nature, humans are just herd mentality creatures, and they pay dearly. But people like us, the investors, the smart investors that are able to find ratios, we can kind of exploit that nature that exists within those group of people. So this is my projection. I'm stacking up on silver, stacking up on gold, other commodities, but I just want to give you my 5-year projection. And I'm looking realistically maybe at about 90, maybe about 80 or 75. I'll start unloading more and more and more as the price goes up. But right now, if you're looking at a $16 silver price with this ratio 14 to 16, it's the cheapest silver's ever been. And my last one, I do want to throw in, there is some manipulation with the paper market as well. But I think there are a lot of geopolitical factors that are going to kill the paper market, and it's going to send the price of all commodities soaring. And I'll talk about that in another video. But let me know what your thoughts are, your comments. What price do you think silver is headed to? Thanks for watching. To subscribe for more financial content, please click the circular button where the red arrow is located, and also watch one of the top 2 videos up top.